Hey Dunchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it is time for my review of the fourth studio album from Dash Berlin, We Are Part 2. Dash Berlin is a production trio and solo DJ act from the Netherlands, kind of gaining popularity in that same trance scene as Armin van Buuren and Gareth Emery, kind of blurring that line between trance music and big room house. With that genre of music kind of being at the forefront of my music taste in 2013 to 2014, I personally found a lot of enjoyment in Dash Berlin's music, especially in their last album, We Are Part 1. An album that, though not spectacular, contains some pretty impressive collaborations with some of my favorite up-and-coming names in electronic music like Blau and J Cosmic. Even with the album being pretty bare bones in terms of structure, most of the songs in We Are Part 1 have stayed with me throughout the years. This album, though, on the other hand, the sequel, We Are Part 2, I think got overlooked as absolutely one of the most forgettable albums that 2017 has had to offer, probably because of the hype around that Chainsmokers album. At the least, Memories Do Not Open does have a little bit of shock factor to it that makes it kind of fun to poke fun at with people. But We Are Part 2 has next to nothing to offer. While I feel like We Are Part 1 had a number of collaborators that really elevated and complemented Dash Berlin's sound, I do not really feel the same about this album. In fact, I thought that the only collaborators on production that even remotely brought their own kind of sound and flair to this album was Dubvision on the song Yesterday Is Gone. Other than that, you've got SZA, who collaborates on the song This Is Who We Are, which sounds like a cheap knockoff of Audion's old sound. And then you've got the duo DBSTF collaborating on both the songs Save Myself and Gold. The version of Save Myself that made the album is actually an acoustic mix of the song, and I went and checked out the original mix of this after I had heard the acoustic mix, and man, I enjoyed that version quite a bit more. I feel like Dash Berlin and DBSTF kind of just went, oh, you know, we're not quite finished with this song yet, so let's just take the wet vocals and then throw a MIDI piano on it and then call it good. And this just ends up being one of the worst acoustic mixes I've ever heard in the history of EDM. Aside from that, their collaboration Gold, which has actually been one of the primary driving singles behind this album, features some really awesome vocals by Jake Reese. I absolutely love the guy. I think he's got a beautiful voice. He's actually one of my favorite vocalists in the EDM scene right now, and man, he did not deserve to get stuck on this track. It features what is, in my opinion, one of the cheapest and most underwhelming future bass drops I've ever heard. Even other producers in Dash Berlin's genre that have chosen to take this direction with their music have done better in future bass than this. It's just so god-awful. On top of that, the song has very unfitting features from Waka Flocka and DJ Woo Kid, and as if what I've mentioned so far hasn't limited the album's creativity enough, this album is largely weighted on being a cover album. This album features covers of DHT's Listen to Your Heart, Skylar Grey's Coming Home, and of course, my favorite of the bunch, a cover of DJ Sammy's cover of Heaven by Bryan Adams. None of these are absolutely astounding, my favorite of the bunch probably being the Listen to Your Heart cover with Christina Novelli, who's one of my favorite trance vocalists. But man, Heaven has absolutely nothing to offer. It might as well be listed as a 2016 remake of DJ Sammy's remix of the song. The intro to this album, if you can even call it that, With You, kind of sounds like a lot of the content that was on We Are Part 1, but the melody on this one just bores me to death with this constant rising da 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 da, and it just really gets nowhere. Not an impressive track in the slightest for me. And then the last two songs that I haven't already mentioned kind of just sound like everything else that I've heard on EDM radio over the last year or so. In terms of creativity, this album is on par with, if not even more limited, than the Chainsmokers, and not something that I would spend money on even remotely. I thought I was going to have a hard time rating something even worse than the Chainsmokers, but this album deserves it. I'm going to give We Are Part 2 a strong 1.5 to a light 2.0. If you would like to listen to this album, as always, I have that Spotify link down in the description, and if you guys have listened to this album, make sure to let me know what you personally think about it down in the comment section below. As always, I'm Landon Remixes. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you later. Peace.